very early on. This is okay. It shouldn't be lost on people that at the very moment that you have an open revolt against the Chinese Communist Party, because people do not understand that Tiananmen is much bigger than Tiananmen Square. You had a country in a moment, right, around that lead up into the late May and early June, that was in open revolt against a dictatorial system that had been imposed upon that in every major city. Now, Beijing, and right there by the Forbidden City, I mean, that is sacred ground for the CCP because they're an imperial dynasty. And what you can have is the peasants overthrown right there. When the Goddess of Liberty went up, which was one of the strongest symbols in world history, that we are united to the American Revolution, we're united kind of the French Revolution, we are united in this quest for freedom and dignity and liberty, right? At that very moment, Deng and these guys, you know, the kind of the hardliners took over and go, okay, we've had it. This is not good. This is where the world gets a system and they're going to start asking questions. This is going to be put down, and we don't care how many people we kill. In fact, if we got to kill them on global TV, we're going to kill them on global TV, but that's getting killed. We're killing that now. Where was the outrage from the West? There was no outrage. In fact, it was the exact opposite. Bush 41, who had been ambassador to China and been head of the CIA, just saying, right? What did he do? He sent General Scowcroft in 30 days to Beijing to basically tell Deng Xiaoping and these guys, you got to tone it down, right? Obviously, this thing's not working. We'll help you kind of figure this out, but you got to clean it up, and we can't have any more tanks. And what we're going to do is get you in the World Trade Organization and get you in the most favored nation. And we're going to make you from a backward agricultural developing nation. We're going to allow you to become a manufacturing power because we are going to work in conjunction and ship all the jobs over here. And we're going to be partners. And that's what happened. And this is what happened in broad daylight. The cynicism of it. So the global elites don't have credulity. They had willful blindness. They knew exactly what was going on. They were party to it. And here's the cruelest thing, is what they sold the American people on. The reason to accept this, because the American people have always had this bond with the Chinese people back from the 17th and 18th century, right? I remember as a kid in Catholic school, you know, giving to the orphanages in China, right, to help the young Chinese. Always had a strong bond with the American people. And as a young kid in Virginia, I always wanted to go to China from the very early ages, right? Kind of the mystery of China and the beauty of China and how magnificent it was. What you see is they took the most cynical way to sell it. They go, listen, if we give them all this stuff on economics, they'll become more liberal in politics. Right? They'll become, and it's the exact opposite. It was a bald-faced lie. In fact, you could argue 30 years after that, our elites really looked around and said, hey, their system, we kind of like their system. State capitalism with authoritarian control and kind of elite merger of regulatory apparatus. And that's what the United States had come under Biden. That's what the Trump revolution is, a rejection of that. But this very early on, this is, okay, it shouldn't be lost on people.
So today is June 4th, is new federal state China 5th anniversary, and it was founded by Mayo School and Mr. Stephen Bannon. And right now, Mr. Mayo School is still in MDC in Brooklyn, New York. And new federal state China, the reason has this day start because June 4th, Tiananmen massacres in 1989, which is marked this movement of the Chinese people thinking for the democracy. And this is, Mr. Bannon said a lot here, said even the tank ran through the Tiananmen Square, but the CCP got the rewards instead punished. And you turn. I got Mayo School and I got Halibo here today. Sorry, no introductions.
Oh yes, no, yeah, we've been, yeah. So June 4th, this is the date that when we commemorate the brutal crackdown of the democratic movement in 1989 in Tiananmen Square. And this June 4th, this is a Tiananmen Massacre, known as the Tiananmen Massacre, is a special date, right? So Mao Square and Mr. Bannon use this date as the as the date to 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 as the to found the new federal state of China on 2020, June 4th, 2020. And like you said, today 2025, June 4th. This is the fifth anniversary of new federal state of China. New federal state of China is under Moscow's leadership. It has the mandate to take down the Chinese Communist Party to help the world restore order by removing this communist dictatorship regime who have using their money and power influence all the governments, all the important global organizations all over the world, and cast and export their brutal ideology. And we are living in the middle of it. CCP is colluding with all these evil force. Well, as I would say, the dark side of these people who are trying to control and take away our freedom. And CCP is colluding with them. By taking down the CCP, we should be able to contribute a big part for the global movement fighting for freedom. Right. So today is a special date that we want to revisit June 4th, 1989. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Mao Square, the journey since 2020, like the establishment of the New State of China, right? So as we have we chatted a bit earlier yesterday. We talked about like that's. I mean, for me, that's one thing that I really want to talk regarding this historical event and which is something that I think most people are not aware of is that there was U.S. involvement in the crackdown of the democratic movement. Should we jump right in, or should we talk something else first? Okay, so that's that. I think that was from Moscow. He mentioned about the Bush administration, the Bush Junior, senior. Sorry, the Bush senior. So he actually sent a convoy to meet with the then Deng Xiaoping, who was holding the shadow power behind the curtain, right? So and in the meeting, the convoy actually passed along the message that the U.S. will not actually sanctioned China if they crack down that put a lid on the democratic movement, because during 1989, like there's been student protests right in the capital city of Beijing in China, and the movement has been very influential and it ignite the frame of the hunger of democracy, and it's like all throughout China, everywhere. I remember I was just a very young student by then, and then I watch TV. Every day you see like students. They're very patriotic, and they sit on a hunger strike in under the sun, because June it was summertime, right? And it was pretty brutal. And there's a massive number of students protesting with hunger and on Tiananmen Square, and I still remember those images. But now, after following Mao Square, we kind of know what's behind it. We kind of want to dig deeper and deeper of what this incident really how it happened, what's behind it, so that's something that we kind of get more and more insight about it. And one of the things is like the United States, actually they are not the leadership, the elites, they were not hoping to see a democratic China. They would like China to perpetuate the dictatorship, so that in some way they can, and they believe that's for the best benefit of America, instead of a free and democratic China, right? So they actually enable. That's I say the word I say, they enable, or they if you go to the historical facts, the United States actually, after just like the crackdown of the Tiananmen Square, immediately, out of the moral obligation, they have to put sanction over China, right? But then the sanction was lifted pretty far, pretty fast. I can't remember. It was just like within a year or something. Then all these restrictions gone, and all these like foreign investment actually pouring into China in an exponential rate. That's kind of rewarding, the crackdown of the democracy, the democratic movement. It's kind of very, very irony. So that was I was quite confused by then, but now I realize that, oh yeah, it was the American elites. They don't want China. They didn't want China to be democratic, have human rights. They what they wanted is, a country that can produce, very cheap labor, and it's better to be governed by a dictatorship, so that there's no human right, and it's more, in a dictatorship, it's easy to get more cheap labor, and so all other things, that obviously other things, but that's what actually what happened. So the Bush administration actually sent a convoy to meet with Deng's administration. Deng's, I'm not sure if it's directly talking to Deng, but anyway, they have communication. They deliver the message to Deng, so that Deng make a decision to just send the tank, right, to crack down and kill all these many innocent protesters on that, which was the Tiananmen massacre, and that meet in. And how do you know that? I think Moscow released that information that on May the 20th, that's a couple of weeks before before Deng sent in the military tank, right? They already know that this is gonna happen, right? So I kind of. Can you just give me more details? I remember that was on May the 20th. What happened?
Yeah, May the 20th is that's Mao's talk with some elites of the West that told him they already know, and the tank will go in, the army will solve their problems. But that time, I think Mao School went to jail was May 26th or 28th, somewhere there. But the majority of in Tiananmen Square, the student just get really excited, so that they negotiate with the Chinese government. They think they can get the democracy somehow, which is never would happen, because the Western elites already decide for the Chinese people's future. You guys are going to be slave. We don't want democracy for China. So they already decide that the army going to solve the problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was Moscow, I think in one of his conversation with
the elites,
with all these elites, way after, I think it's probably decade or 2 decades after Tiananmen massacre, he actually, and then the leaders actually told him that, oh yeah, we have already known about that, we acknowledge that. So Moscow was like, what? So everything has been orchestrated by the West. The Western leader. Of course, the Western leader didn't do anything, but they give the confidence. They send the confidence to just like Russia, Putin. If he haven't got Xi's support, he wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. Same thing. If Deng have not got some sort of assurance from the West, he wouldn't. He might have make a different decision, I think, and China might have been already become a democratic country. We never know, but at least that was the closest. China was so close to get democracy, right, in 1989, and after that, China sank into the shithole of dictatorship and enslavement of Chinese people. So that's more than 3 decades ago.
Yeah.
So
That's 36 years ago, and Chinese people really hungry for the democracy at the time. And later on, they shift to the money drive, and people kind of forget about it.
Yeah. So it becomes like Steve Bannon said, state capitalism, right?
Yeah.
So China switched to state capitalism, and which actually benefit the West a lot because after Tiananmen Square, like the West got this boon, like Walmart, all these like big multinational companies, they benefit a lot from the sweat factories in China, and that's and then eventually like the West actually what goes around comes around, right? So the CCP came back to haunt them, send out all these, China becomes such a, after joining WTO, if you allow China to allow this, evil communist system to develop, they just eventually evolve into such a big, juggernaut that they're gonna have to, they are challenging the Western, domination, and they are kind of trying to defeat the dollars, and so it's the American who cultivate this this evil, allow this evil to develop, right? And that's that. I think, I know, as every Chinese, how do you feel about that? I just feel very furious about this. Without foreign involvement, right? We would probably, Chinese people would be able to remove this dictatorship regime long time ago. Like at least a few times. It's not just like just like Tiananmen Square. I think there's a few times. It was the Western leadership. If I want to name names, I would name like Kissinger.
Kissinger went to China at the time secretly.
He's the mastermind. He's the mastermind. Just remember, he's the mastermind of normalized Sino-American relationship, right, under the Charles Nixon's administration, and then he actually promote this pro-China a democratic policy all the time, and he's so influential, right? He's so influential. He's he back then he was the Secretary of State, but then after that, he's been having a lot of power and influence over the the American government, after Nixon's, right? So it's been. He's been he's the mastermind of all of this, and he always promote China, promote communism. Like they want American to believe that if you help the communists, they will come to their senses. They will become democratic. But actually, it's the opposite was true. So he's and I think he was not. I don't think he was like Steve Bannon said. He was not stupid. I think he was actually lying. I don't think like he didn't see what gonna come, right? Because that's what Steve Bannon mentioned, like willful blindness, right? So he just just want to take a blind eye of what China rise with all this communism, right? On what ideology, like what would he like to make, and he didn't care. What he cared is like the benefit he got, from CCP, or like we know that he got transplant in China, organs. He benefited a lot, so he's I think he betrayed the Americans' interest big time. And under his influence, I think Khrushchev was his actually, the president of the WEF, like he was his student, and he cultivate a whole lot of people who his followers actually. He are actually doing a lot of evil things right now. And that now China, CCP have done so much evil all over the world. On top of that, I mean, like, of course, we Chinese people are the biggest victim, by this communist system. And I think we have to, I don't know, like, I think, like, is there a way that we can protest against the previous American administration for sustaining a dictatorship so that they can enslave us, Chinese people? Like, I think, like, we Chinese people should at some point, raise this voice, like, we want to let the world know that we Chinese are been having victimized, not by, yes, we are victimized by our government, but this government, without foreign interference, we should be able to build a better government, right? And then now if they didn't separate Chinese Communist Party with Chinese people, and they continue to brand Chinese people because of the COVID and stuff, like, I feel that's really unfair. So I would say this is a typical example of racism.
I want to emphasize two things. One thing, from 1989, June 4th, Tiananmen Square, democracy didn't happen in China, but did help Berlin Wall go down. I think from there and start a lot of communist country kind of realize. So the Eastern German go with Western, that's in the early 90s, and the Russian separate, that's 1991. All around that, I believe if my timeline right. So somewhere there, and then the people who died in 1999, June 4th, on Tiananmen Square, they didn't die for nothing. And also the second thing that I want to say, Miles Corbin told us not only the people who died in the square in Beijing, and CCP did a huge checking up, arresting in all over the country, totally like 50,000 people at least. And that's the Miles School went in jail before June 4th happened. And it's outside China, he got arrested. And he was in jail outside Beijing. And also he was in jail in Henan province. And right now I have another video and show that. And
well, I just want to respond, because I think, like, I would say, like, the magnitude of the Tiananmen massacre was really, really, really big, and it caused all these, countries to realize that how brutal communist government could be, and they raised up to erase, to removed, especially Eastern European countries. But I would also, there's another layer, I think, in why China didn't become democratic while the Eastern Europeans have that democracy. I think it was all designed by because after all, like, European are the same race, as these American elites, or the global leaders. They actually have a map. They have a map for the world. So they want, like, why would they drop, atomic bombs in Japan rather than, like, Spain or Germany, right? So I think there's a deep racism and behind all these behaviors. That's just my personal take. I think that back then they think, like, probably they think, like, Europe need to be saved, while Eastern Asia, like China, or we need slaves. We need these slaves. These slaves have been very useful, since the late 19th century. We recruit them to build railways and do all these like dirty jobs, and they are really good laborers. So we need to have a dictatorship government to help us manage these slaves, so that for our own benefit. I think that's my guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, can be. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next video, please, Mickey. When you do the video, you have to turn on your sound, I think.
当年8564的时候，一位军队的干部跟我说：“他说，你知道当时我最大，我现在要谴责的坏良心的是什么？他说是我指令了20几个人，他从几个班里边选出来20几个人，他说穿上了当时护士的衣裳和当时平民的衣裳，上街上去干了第一件事儿，就是把一个尸体给烧了，挂到树上去，在木须地。”这个哥们儿每次说这事儿，他都掉眼泪。每次跟我喝完酒，只要一说的话，一定端起大杯子喝。共产党任何体制内有良知的，知道光辉说的是真是假。你们知道是怎么回事？当时杨白冰直接告诉我，马上要死人，没死人这事没法行动。下面人都蒙查了，怎么死人？没死人啊！你们都傻呀？死个人不容易吗？而且有必须要的记者在场。大家记住，当时光明日报那个记者，查查光明日报的记者。888拍的照片，你看看照片拍到的发出去的，总共1个小时啊！当时还没有这什么传送 WiFi 呀，他咋会就出来的呀？那人就挂到那个桥去了，解放军被烧了，被人给挂在了桥上，全世界傻眼了，就像当时江泽民在上海抓了亲历本《上海党报》一样，全世界都注意这事儿，好像风向有变，风向有变。
So this is a male school told us the truth. There was one soldier who killed and who burned, and CCP says student did it. And which when later on male school associated with a lot of high-end Chinese officials. So one of them who is giving order to do that, to kill one of the soldiers in order to get attention and to bring the army in. So that was shocked me. And also from here, I hope the whole world understand CCP cannot be trusted. You turn.
Yeah. Well, yes. So Mao is quoting back then Yang Baibing. He was the military chief in command, right? So he's the president of the military commission. So he made an order. He made an order to scapegoat the protesters by saying they kill the PLA soldiers and burn their body and then hang it on a tree. Mm-hmm. This was staged, right? So it was his order, under his order, that the soldier had to carry out his order, pick up whatever crops they found and then burn it and then claim that this was a PLA and it was burned by and then this soldier was ordered to take civilian clothing, right, so that to burn the body, and that would change the some people who at the beginning of the protest, most people have a lot of sympathy about the protesters, but after this incident, people start to have like controversial opinion about the protesters, right? But this was definitely fake, right? And that Moscow have the direct information. The first thing you mentioned why this was fake, he got a quote, and then the reporter who took the picture of this so allegedly burnt body of soldier, and it was within an hour the photo was released on the party's newspaper. So that was photographs, right?
Yeah.
How could they be so fast to release?
Yeah.
You know, like, so all these things are all pointed towards the direction that, you know, the CCP has been playing very dirty, right? And we know that it happened again and again all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we know that it happened in 2019 in the crackdown of the Hong Kong
Yeah.
protest. So they pretend, you know, to be protesters and then do all this to smear the image of the protest. Actually, the Hong Kong students' protests are the best protests I've ever seen. Right, we have images and videos showing, right? But then it was like, you know, they were smeared. The image was smeared by CCP, and also and in the past, you know, it was the CCP's propaganda, you know, mouthpiece, you know, the Guangming Zhibao. And now is all this Western mainstream media. They all like they're on the side of CCP, and then and that's how they put down a real democratic movement.
Yeah.
Right, and then we know that the BLM movement, you know, the BLM movement was inflamed by CCP as well, and then they became violent because I was you know, we seen some video about, you know, some Chinese speaking, you know, people behind the scene, you know, so I think that was inflamed by CCP as well. They probably sent someone to pretend to be protester and throw stones on the store window or somewhere, and then inflame the mob and then cause them to do the violence, right? So this is what they've been doing all the time. So since June 4th, we know that when the West allowed the Tiananmen massacre to happen, eventually the evil will come to the doorstep of the West. So like this is why I think it's, you know, I think that if the Western leaders back then have some conscience, they supposed to come clean with it.
Yeah.
I would say they supposed to come and testify before Congress, saying like, yeah, I regret I made that decision. You know, we knew this was wrong, but then we collude with the CCP. You know, I really hope that there was someone who could have the gut to do the right thing and pray for forgiveness of, you know, all these victims. You know, because like how many, you know, the CCP is not representing Chinese people. It's a run, you know. Sometimes Steve K. Bannon said this was a running dog. You know, CCP's running dog means like the colluders of CCP, including American, but the CCP overall is the running dog of the Western leadership, right? So, so CCP is not representing Chinese interests, but it's representing the Western leadership's interests. So I mean, to some extent, okay, yeah. So they are. So I think that's really unfair to us, and that the CCP create this really dirty prey, and it's been adopted by Americans too.
Yeah.
Right now, I see like, you know, like CCP, what they do, how do they silence you? They kidnap your family, right? So that's what they do. Threatening your daughter and sons, you know, like, so in the West, that wouldn't happen. But now it was happening in America too, right? And it was playing very dirty right now in American politics. So I think that's these are like the, unfortunately, what comes around goes around. What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
So better do the right thing, you know, because I think God is watching. The heaven is watching. Usually in Chinese they say the heaven is watching, but here we know that God is all knowing. Like God knows what you are doing. You know, you're doing bad things. You better, you know, you better right the wrong before, you know, you got the punishment by God.
The thing is, I bring this up, said the CCP cannot trust, because I feel Trump still want to make a deal with Xi, but they keep delaying on it. And in the meantime, Putin is still not stopping the war with Ukraine. We may lead a third world war. And 2019, and President Trump with his or whether Li He or whatever, they made a deal, but nothing really happened. So that's why do whatever you can to save the world, to give the peace for the world. Count them out, count the CCP out, because they would not be able to trust them. We can trust them. And anything they promise doesn't mean anything. So I hope Mao School can come out soon and then can help the whole world become more peaceful. I don't want to see the Third World War.
Yeah. So exactly, I like what you say, to call them out, call the CCP out, right? So there have been some Western leaders been doing that, it's very brave, mostly are, more conservative side of the political spectrum, that kind of leadership. They have to challenge CCP because they're not colluding with them. But a lot of politicians have been fall into the trap of CCP, and then So anyway, so June 4th is the day. Today is the day to commemorate the Tiananmen Massacre, and also is the day to celebrate the birth of the new federal state of China in 2020. Right? It's been 5 years. 5 years under Mao School's leadership, we have a mandate to take down the Chinese Communist Party. On this day, I think 2025 is a critical year. We hope that the West, after doing some really, really unethical things against China to enable the dictatorship to perpetuate, the brutal oppression over Chinese people and enslave Chinese people. I hope that American and also other global leaders should come to that should have this awareness to right the wrong and help at least stop supporting CCP, and that decouple with them, challenge them, and so that we Chinese people can remove this devil from the world, and that would be very helpful to all the other freedom fighters in their fight against the evil beings, because CCP is a big part of the evil organization of the world.
Thank you, everyone. Again, we are the citizens of New Federal State China. Our mission is take down the CCP. The founder of New Federal State China, Mao School, still don't have his freedom. I hope that's happening pretty soon. And because we saw him taking down the CCP will take longer. And I believe Chinese people suffer enough. And American people also suffering right now. And we need to get the world in the right order and become more peaceful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mickey, and thank you, Alibo. And see you next time.
See you guys next time. Thank you.
We're going to go through much more, not just on Tiananmen, but connected to events like maybe the imminent invasion of Taiwan, and what the Chinese Communist Party is doing on the infiltration of the United States of America. I want to leave you with one of the people that have done more for the United States of America than virtually any American, maybe with the exception of Donald Trump. That would be Miles Guo, that came to the West to warn us about the existential threat, not just to the Chinese people, his fellow countrymen, but also to citizens of the United States and the United States of America. The epic song that we use every day, played in its entirety. Take down the CCP. Next year, Beijing, free Miles Guo, take down the CCP. We'll see you at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow.
Taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long. We will end what they do wrong. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. Let's take down the CCP. And the bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. 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 Let the bullets fly a little longer.
干灭中国共产党这个 CCP， 还能让我们远离恐惧。Take down the CCP.
They try to scare the nation. with crooked assumption. They ran our lives, but no more. We will win. We will take down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long. We will end what they do wrong. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. Let's take down the CCP. The bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Let the bullets fly a little longer.
站起来吧！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
站起来吧！
Let the bullets fly a little
为
longer.
奴役的人们
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
行动！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
行动！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
完了！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer. Bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take it down!
Tanks are rolling in down the main thoroughfare towards Tiananmen Square. There's sporadic shooting, automatic weapons opened up, people were diving for cover.
I'm very angry. Many students were killed.
大学生啊，你们可要不保持住了，不要跟解放军打呀！
That shows that the government is totally mad.
'64的真相，64的英雄，64人的血，绝对不是今天所知道的。我们永远不能忘记64当年的真相。坦克碾压是很少的一部分，最大的是在64之后，在全国的追杀、暗杀，还有整个的消灭。我们要让共产党知道，没有任何中国人可以忘记64当时的真相。我们把64的英雄要忘记了，我们不配谈新中国联邦，我们不配拥有一个6月4号这样的一个灾难性的日子作为建国之日。我们任何一个中国人不具面试，不具正视，不具严肃，信仰64，不具在64当中吸收教训，新中国联邦是不可能成功的，爆料革命是不可能成功的。
从今天开始起，共产党在中国不再是合法的政府。
We're going to go through much more, not just on Tiananmen, but connected to events like maybe the imminent invasion of Taiwan and what the Chinese Communist Party is doing on the infiltration of the United States of America. I want to leave you with one of the